This house is not for you. It's the time for the next generation. That is why I sold this house to my eldest son and his wife.
The eldest son's wife says, "That's right. Give us a house and get the hell out." My husband is scoffing at me as old woman. My daughter-in-law is following him and saying, "Get out from the house." And my elderly son looked like an evil to me too. Hey, were you listening to me? This house is no longer yours. Pack your bag quickly. If not, my father will be even more mad. Whatever he says is very mean to me. Does he desperately want this house? I'll make their dream come true. Okay, I'm leaving as you wish. The three of them suddenly became silent when I expressed my dismay, and I get back inside the house to get my belongings. You can have the house, but even if you do, you never know how much trouble ahead of you, and you never expect that you will be the one who will regret. Hi, my name is Sophia. I am now a kimono dressing instructor. Because a friend introduced me a job to work in the kimono shop when I was 20 years old. I met my husband, Carter, through one of the mutual friends, and he is a pretty famous kimono instructor even now later. We got married at 24 and had a son the following year, and had our second child 3 years after that. After graduating from university, the second son got a job at a major corporation, and he got married 5 years later. On the other hand, the oldest son got married at the age of 40, but his personality stays the same, very self-depravity. His wife mainly earned money to support the family, while the oldest son stays at home and pretends to be a housewife. Our sons almost become independent, so we would enjoy our own lives. I thought that, but things aren't going so well. My family has quite many problems.
Hey, who told you to prepare this? How many times have I told you to drink coffee in the morning?
But I believe green tea is better for your health.
I prefer coffee to green. Prepare coffee in the morning. Don't you understand, do you?
My husband becomes enraged easily and lashes out like this. How much easier it would be if I could honestly say I don't want to live like this. How many times I have wished to flee and live apart from my husband in 40 years of marriage. But I have my reasons for not leaving here. Since he was unemployed, I was the one who earned income to support our family and built a new house by saving money little by little. If I left here, this house would have been my husband's. I really wanted to avoid that. This new house has full of my hopes and dreams. I had deep discussions with the contractors from the beginning of the construction stage, shaping my desire for the interior, exterior, and every other aspect of the house. My husband tried to intervene, but I didn't allow him to do so because I was paying for it. The new house was completed after about 6 months of hard work. Due to budget constraints, not all of my wishes were granted, but almost perfect. However, it cost more than I had anticipated. As a result, I had to take a larger mortgage loan than I planned, which I had underestimated. It's difficult for me to pay off a large loan due to my age, but it's nothing because it is for my dream house. The intercom rang when I was getting emotional. "Yes, a moment, please." "Hello." This is Emily,
who is Kaiden's wife. She is making money to support the family instead of lazy Kaiden. She appears to be a lovely woman, but she has an abrasive personality. She is obviously being aggressive, especially to me. Isn't Kaiden with you today? When I approach her in this manner, she always ignores me. Oh, Emily-san, welcome to my home. Please come in. This is my new home. Isn't it incredible, is it?
Truly amazing. I wish I could live in a house like this.
Emily, you're always welcome here. In fact, you can live with us in this house from today.
Oh my, father-in-law.
Something like this. She behaves like a spoiled child toward father-in-law very much. I'm curious how long they've been getting along so well. I feel disgusted by my husband's interactions with daughter-in-law. Hey, prepare tea and snacks right away. Don't be a jerk to Emily-chan. I did as I was told, serving tea and sweets to her. She began eating without saying anything to me. Normally, she should have said thank you or itadakimasu to me. But there's no point to expect such a word from her. She said, I am going back to only my husband, and left the house as soon as she finished having tea and sweets. Why she visited this house? I am tired of her attitude. Ever since, she more frequently comes to our house. At the beginning, she came over here only when my husband and I were home, or only once a week. But she gradually increased the number of her visits, and she comes here almost every day after 3 months. And she always comes here when I am not at home. I'm not sure why she comes here so often. Question remains in my mind. One day, I received a phone call. Hello, Mom. It's been a while. How have you been?
Harry, of course, I'm fine.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's Harry, my second son. Unlike my older son, Harry is hardworking and takes good care of his family, who I am proud of. He's busy with work these days, so I don't get to see him very often, but he calls every now and then. How are things going? How is the new house? It's very comfortable, but I have a bit of problem. Harry asked, Is it about Emily? How do you know? I asked him how he knew. He said, I don't have much time, so I'll explain about it briefly.
What? Is that true?
Yes, it is, because I heard it from my brother the other day when he was drunk. That story was hard for me to believe, but it made sense to me. Are you okay? Harry asked me, because I became silent. I'm fine. Thanks for telling me. It was a very useful story. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I have a favor to ask you, Harry. I need your assistance, I said. I decided to do something and asked for Harry's assistance. I started working for it next day. I did it after work and on my days off, so nobody would notice. It has been a few days past since then.
Hello.
I was a little sarcastic to her, who had come to our house as a matter of course. It's unusual for you to come here when I'm home. However, she did not respond to my words at all. She took off her shoes at the entrance and came into the house without saying anything. When I was giving her an icy look from the back, I heard someone's voice. Oh well, this is a really nice house.
Kaiden, what a surprise!
My oldest son also came over today. He behaved like his wife.
He took off his shoes at the entrance and came into the house without a word to me. My husband then came out from the living room as if he had been expecting two of them.
"I've been waiting for you two. Hey, come this way."
They all moved to the living room as if I had not existed.
"This is an open kitchen, so you can see the living room from here."
"This is wonderful. I'd love to see Emily cooking in this kitchen." "Bathroom and toilet are the next." I could overhear my husband's voice from back of the house that it seemed like he was showing around our house. After finished showing the first floor,
"This way,"
they went to the second floor. Harry was right. I was secretly following them, and I heard suspicious words coming from the bedroom.
"This room has a nice view and size is big enough, right? Of course, there is a toilet on the second floor and an extra room over there too."
"Wow, this is a fantastic house. When can we move in?" I was skeptical at first, but my doubts changed into a conviction when I saw three of them closely. They returned to the living room with happiness after they had finished looking around the house. As soon as they came back to the living room, my husband complained.
"What are you doing?
You are very impolite.
Bring some tea and snacks here. They came from far away."
"That's okay, Daddy. We care about elderly, so take it easy."
"I agree. It is usual to act slower once people get older. You should be nicer to her because you two are a married couple."
I have so many things I want to say, but I'll be patient at this moment. I prepared some tea and snacks to them as I was told. But he is dissatisfied, and my son and his wife did not say anything. I don't think they know what I'm thinking or what I'm dreaming now. Three of them enjoy conversation in front of me and are giving me a dry look. My eldest son and his wife looked around every corner of the house, following with my husband, and they went back their home with excitement. A few days later, when I got home from work, I saw a truck in front of our house. My husband was talking to someone by the side of the truck. I got closer to see what was going on and noticed that the truck was labeled Scott the Moving Center. "Oh, I see." I glanced at him for a second, and then he was getting inside the house with a mover. On top of that, my oldest son and his wife came to join him behind my back, as if they would have waited for the right moment. "Well, it is ready, right?" "Yes, that's right." As soon as they finished talking, they walked right into the house without even looking at me. I stood outside the house and observed everyone. They discussed what to do next for half an hour and came out from the house with a mover. They all looked exultant. All of them were seeing off and bowing to the moving company. After everything was done, three of them were looking at me at the same time with grim smile. My husband said,
"I'd like to talk to you." "Okay, don't say anything and say yes to my question. You don't have the right to refuse anyway." The oldest son and his wife were listening to our conversation beside me and were grinning. The husband then takes a deep breath and said, "You are too old for this house. It's time for younger generation. Thus, I sold this house to my son and his wife." Following the husband's words, daughter-in-law said, "That's right. Get out from this house quickly. My husband is calling me an old woman, and she agrees with his opinion. And she scoffs at me and is telling me to leave this house immediately." Additionally, my eldest son is standing behind them and accepts it. Their face seemed like an evil, not human beings. "Hey, did you hear what I said? This house is no longer yours. It's better for you to leave this house immediately. If not, your husband will get full of rage." Whatever they say is very nasty to me, and I cannot believe they are my family. Do they really want this house so badly? Sure, I'll let them give whatever they want. I understand. I'll leave here as you wish. What I said made them fall silent involuntarily. I ignored 3 of them and went inside the house to get my belongings. "I'll give you this house." "You can have the house, but even if you do, you never know how much trouble ahead of you. And you never expect that you will be the one who will regret. I still have feeling for this house because of all my big efforts, but it doesn't matter now. I just get out of this house quickly." When I am carrying my belongings away, expression on their face is unusual. I have never seen such a face before. I suppose they are relieved because I'm away. "But it's only for now. Be ready," I muttered quietly. I left the house and went to a specific place. "Hello. Thank you in advance." "I've been waiting for you, Mother." "I'm sorry you had a difficult time, Mother." "I will take your luggage." The place where I was going is my second son's house. The reason I moved here is Harry called me a while ago. Harry informed me that my husband was about to sell our new home to our eldest son and his wife. So I began planning for that day, which I had to move out while I was keeping in touch with Harry. He asked me to live together. That is why I am here today. Actually, there's something that I haven't told you yet. The second son suddenly had mysterious facial expression and spoke up unexpectedly. "In fact, my father and Emily are having an affair." "What the hell?" The second son told me that my husband and daughter-in-law were having an affair. When I'm looking back, there are certainly many suspicious things about those 2. But is it true? Then my second son took out his phone and showed me a picture. It clearly showed my husband and daughter-in-law having an affair. According to the second son, my husband started seeing her shortly after the new house was built. Oh, probably at that time. Presumably, Dad will ask you for divorce in a few days. I would not be in a normal state of mind if I knew my father was having an affair with my brother's wife. But he talks calmly. So I believe you should devise a plan for that. I told something to him. He looked surprised by me and said, "I see, that will work." A few days later, I received a call from my husband as my second son expected. "I have decided to divorce you. Sign on the divorce paper today." "Sure, I'll be there later on." Everything was arranged. One thing that remained was a direct confrontation with those 3. I texted my second son right away, and all he said was, "Good luck." My husband was waiting for me in the front entrance when I arrived. He came close to me quickly and gave me the divorce paper immediately, like asking me to sign my name on it right now. I fed up with his behavior, but I signed my name on it. He became overjoyed and immediately went to the city office to submit the paperwork. As a result, I was legally granted the divorce from my husband. We decided to talk with a divorce lawyer about what happens with the division of property between us later, so we ended our conversation there. When I returned home and told my stories to second son about the divorce, he said, "So all we can do now is to relax and wait." 2 months had passed since I had left the new house. I received a phone call from my eldest son. I never knew the monthly loan payment is 180,000 yen. He got panicked, but I calmly responded to him, "What? I was the one who paid back 180,000 yen every month. Why should I pay back that loan? I am not there anymore, so my estate, of course, will be transferred to you, right?" He could not hear what I was explaining. All he said was, "Please do something for me. You're an old man, so you have to take care of yourself." That was all I told him. I hung up the phone and immediately deleted my oldest son's number. My second son was standing beside me and burst out laughing. His laughter was very infectious, so I also burst out laughing. The next day, when I got home from work, I found the three of them asking for money to my second son. "Please, lend me money. I can't make a living without financial help." "Please, Harry, help us." "Harry, please help me. Nobody told us about 180,000 yen monthly loan." They were all kneeled on the floor side by side in the living room. I let out a long sigh of despair. Then my ex-husband noticed me and said, "Why are you here?" "I have been living with Harry and his family since I left that house." My ex-husband got furious because he did not know about it. But I cut him off, and it's none of your business. Then he said, "That is more important. When can I receive money from the division of property?" "Oh no, he doesn't know anything." "Well, we don't have any money." "Of course you do. When you divorce, you are supposed to share the division of property." "Yeah, usually, but only if you own the property. We do not have any properties." Even after all of this, my ex-husband didn't seem to understand what I was saying. I carefully explained to my ex-husband again. "Okay, you've been unemployed for a long time, and I paid for all of our living expenses as well as the mortgage loan for the new house. I could manage to cover only for those necessities, but I could not save any money because you spent it all on yourself." After he got to know the truth, he was shocked. I gave him the final word. "As you are expecting, I am going to ask you for alimony. Be prepared." "What? Alimony?" He was shocked. I kept talking. "You know, you are having an affair with Emily, aren't you? I have known it." Our second son saw it and even took pictures for an evidence. The second son took his phone out and showed some picture of suspicious infidelities. My husband seemed lost and collapsed. The daughter-in-law got devastated, and began crying as soon as she saw pictures. The oldest son stayed by her side, but started shivering and got extremely mad. She was crying a lot more. Madman and crying woman. My ex-husband could not move at all. It was a funny situation. My second son and his wife are just amazed by the picture of hell that was happened at their house. Then, the second son forcibly threw the three outside and reported to the police that someone was making a fuss in front of the house. This may be because the situation was troublesome. 10 minutes later, the police rushed to the house and caught the oldest son who was being violent. Then, eventually, the police arrested the eldest son's wife, who was crying and mumbling something, and the ex-husband, who was stunned nearby. 3 of them were taken to the police station. After that, the 3 were released from the police and decided to live in 1-bedroom apartment, including 6 tatami mats. However, the oldest son got crazy after learning about their affair. He became verbally abusive to both all the time, and my ex-husband got mentally ill due to his abusive language and own guilt, unable to work anymore. And the eldest son's wife worked hard for both, her husband and my ex-husband, from the early morning until late at night. What's more, she seems to be having a hard life every day because she has to pay alimony to me too. By the way, the new house has been sold. Well, they could not make a monthly payment, so it's the only way. On the other hand, I severed ties with my oldest son, his wife, and my ex-husband. I will never see with those 3 again. Since then, my job as a kimono dresser has gone smoothly, and now I have my own store. And I'm going to build my own house again. After that, I'm thinking to ask my second son and his wife to live together. Next time for sure, 3 of us as family will have a happy life.
Life was peaceful, without any particular issues. My husband and I lived with my mother-in-law, Susan, and everything was fine until it wasn't.
This is Mom's land, so it's Mom's property, right? Then you two should just leave.
Susan's beloved daughter-in-law, Emma, was a spoiled brat. Influenced by Emma, Susan started to change, and our peaceful life quickly fell apart. The 2 of them stalled the simple happiness my husband and I had. Their eventual downfall seemed only fitting. My name is Betty. I live with my husband, John, and Susan. We started living with Susan after my father-in-law, David, passed away. John and I were concerned about Susan living alone, so we had no complaints about the arrangement. We even built a new, accessible home on the in-laws' land, thinking about future caregiving needs for Susan. We built a house that is fully barrier-free, so it will be ready for the future. John and I funded the construction, but the land originally belonged to David and is now Susan's. We had no complaints about this, and we're content with our lives. That is, until recently.
She's coming back. I'm so thrilled.
Susan was talking about Emma, John's sister. Emma had moved abroad after getting married and had been out of touch. She's back now because of a divorce, and Susan couldn't be happier. But to be honest, I don't have very good feelings about Emma's return. It was the same with John. The reason is simple. I haven't heard from Emma until now. She hadn't even attended David's funeral or called us. Of course, considering that Emma was living overseas, this may be inevitable. Her first words after hearing about David's death were,
Do I get some of Dad's inheritance?
It was hard to feel good about Emma, and it was surprising that Susan was so happy about her return. Susan has always been soft on Emma. I've never seen her complain about anything Emma does. Well, as long as it doesn't affect us, let's just ignore it, John said, somewhat resignedly. Emma rented a house nearby, so we thought it wouldn't be a big deal. I was concerned about Susan, but since Emma hadn't done anything directly to us, we decided to go along with John's opinion. However,
John, Mom, I came to visit again today.
contrary to our wishes, Emma started coming over frequently. She didn't work and just lays around all day with Susan, thanks to the divorce settlement she received. Susan, who used to help with chores, stopped doing so. She seemed too busy taking care of Emma, even ordering me around like,
Betty, Emma wants cookies. Go buy some now.
I'm not a stay-at-home wife. I have a part-time job. Yet, I couldn't stand having to spend my few days off catering to Susan and Emma's whims. I once confronted Susan directly, saying, Look, I don't want to be rude, but this is our home too. Can you maybe cut down on how often Emma comes over? Otherwise, John and I can't really relax here. But Susan shot back. This is my property, isn't it? You and John built your house here, so stop complaining. Besides, this is also Emma's parents' house. So why are you being so mean? It's true, we can't argue when she brings up the land ownership. So we've just been ignoring the situation with Susan and Emma. Neither of them listens to John's complaints. Either they do whatever they want.
Betty, I'm hungry. Make lunch now.
Emma says this like it's a given, and if I don't move...
Betty, hurry up. Didn't you hear Emma says she is hungry?
Susan scolds me for not moving. I've reached my limit. John, too, seems fed up and decides to talk to Susan and Emma despite his exhaustion from work. Mom, Emma, you two have been way out of line lately. Betty is my wife, not your servant. John sternly addresses the two of them in the living room. But Emma retorts,
Well, this is my parents' house, right? What I do here has nothing to do with you, bro. Besides, Betty is family, and family helps each other out.
And Susan chimes in.
Exactly. Emma just got divorced and is tired. Stop complaining.
Emma has been back for weeks now and apparently is still tired, even though she doesn't work and mostly stays at our house. I'd love to know what she's so tired from. John is also at a loss with their unrepentant attitudes. It must be incredibly stressful. This may be Emma's parents' house, but it's also mine and Betty's home. Emma, you have your own house, right? Both of you are old enough to stop being so spoiled. But they both look displeased. They act as if they shouldn't have to hear this, saying things like,
It's weird to have to be considerate in your own parents' house. Or, Emma will always be my adorable daughter.
It's all complaining. John, realizing that talking won't help, raises his voice.
I hate to say this, but this is the house that Betty and I built. We may not own the land, but we pay the property taxes. If you keep things up, you'll have to leave.
Susan, who usually claims the land as her own, is finally silenced. But Emma says,
You'd say that about your own sister's parents' house? You're the worst, bro. Don't blame me for what happens next.
And she storms out. Susan leaves after getting a message from Emma. After they're gone, John says,
Sorry about that. It's awkward. But Mom will probably come back soon. We can talk it out then.
We agree to wait for Susan's return. But we never imagined Susan and Emma would take such drastic actions. A few days after Susan followed Emma, John and I were living peacefully. Then suddenly, a ton of packages arrived. Confused as we hadn't ordered anything, Emma and Susan show up.
We decided to make this house ours. You guys need to leave now.
John and I are dumbfounded. Did they forget what was said when they were kicked out before? When we tell them there's no way we're giving up our house, they say,
Then pay rent to Mom, who owns the land. $3,000 a month. If you can afford that, you can stay.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. No way. This is just too much. We're the ones who built this house in the first place. Why should we have to pay rent to live in a house we built ourselves? As John and I left speechless, Emma, misunderstanding the situation, continues with a smug look on her face.
Just so you know, you don't have any say in this, okay? This land belongs to Mom, so we could tear this house down if we wanted to. But that would be inconvenient for you, wouldn't it?
She says, pressing us further. There's no way such a ridiculous proposal would fly, and tearing down the house would ultimately backfire. While it's true that the land belongs to Susan. If the landowner has complaints about the house, it's not entirely out of the question. I rack my brain for a solution, but I'm not well versed in law, so I come up empty. What should we do? That's when I was alone with my head in my hands. John suddenly says,
Fine. If you want this house, we'll leave.
He says this to Susan and Emma. I can't help but control John.
Wait, John, are you serious?
John reassures me.
It's okay.
And continues speaking to Susan and Emma.
Even if we do leave, we haven't decided where to move yet. We need time to prepare for the move. It would help if we could stay at Emma's place in the meantime.
Ignoring my concerns, John continues talking with Emma and Susan. Eventually, it's decided that we will leave this house within a week. During that time, Susan and Emma will live in Emma's current house. Feeling pleased that John complied more easily than they had expected, Susan and Emma say,
Well then, hurry up and leave!
and head home with smiles on their faces. I'm not in the mood for laughing, not even a little.
Why did you make this decision without consulting me?
As soon as Susan and Emma leave, I confront John. I can't let this slide. John apologizes with a regretful look on his face.
Betty, I'm sorry, but I thought we'd be in a bad spot if we didn't do this.
He apologizes to me and explains his reasoning. I can't just laugh off what John is saying as nonsense. The truth is, neither Emma nor Susan showed any signs of remorse, and we have no way to oppose them openly since Susan owns the land. Even if we could secure the rights to the house, we'd still have to live with Emma, and the rift between us and Susan and Emma has only deepened, making life even more difficult. To endure their whims for the rest of our lives as a couple, I can't accept that. We'd break before they do. I somehow understand John's point, but we only have a week until we have to move. It's hard to switch gears, but faking cheerfulness is better than this gloomy atmosphere. So, I muster up a bright voice and ask John,
I get what you're saying, John.
I can't agree, but I understand.
So, what's the plan?
Do you have a new place lined up? John immediately replies,
I thought something like this might happen ever since Emma started hanging around. I know a place we can rent, so we won't need a full week to move.
I wish he'd told me that sooner. My minor complaint vanishes with his assurance that he didn't want Susan and Emma to catch on. He adds,
But I don't want to just hand over the house. We've got stuff to do before we leave. It's going to get busy.
I didn't have the energy to respond to John's enthusiasm. A week later, our move is complete, and we've contacted Susan.
We're ready to move out, so come over as soon as you can.
Within an hour, Susan and Emma show up. They're both footloose, probably because they don't work, and no doubt thrilled that the house will soon be theirs. They arrive almost dancing with joy, But when they see the house, they're utterly shocked. Well, it's no surprise, because...
Why is the house gone?
Yes, the house they were planning to take from us today is gone.
What's going on, big brother? Why is the house gone? Explain!
Emma is freaking out and Susan is still in shock behind her. Ignoring Susan for a moment, John answers Emma's question.
Why? Because it was our house, so we demolished it. What more is there to say?
John says this with a cool expression. Emma, on the other hand, raises her voice, her face turning red.
That's not the point. This land belongs to Mom, right? That means the house built on it is also Mom's. How could you demolish it without permission?
John laughs out loud at Emma's furious rant.
We could demolish it because it was allowed, right? Think for yourself for once. I own the house, not Mom. We'll hand over the land as promised. No complaints, right?
Emma is at a loss for words at John's response. Finally, Susan speaks up.
This is too much. Are you telling your own mother to live in a place like this? We have nowhere to go because Emma already moved out.
Facing Susan's outcry, John looks at her with a cold gaze.
What are you talking about? You were planning to do the same to us. If I hadn't asked for time to prepare for the move, you would have kicked us out immediately. Why should we give up our house for people like you? Enough with the selfishness.
At John's words, both Susan and Emma look down, their faces turning pale. There's nothing wrong with what John said, so it's only natural they can't agree back. What they tried to do to us has simply come back to haunt them. What goes around comes around. Even a child knows that. Just when I thought Susan would keep looking down, she raises her face to look at me.
What do you think, Betty? This can't be right, can it?
Tell John.
Susan pleads and Emma chimes in.
Yeah, you guys found a new place to move to, right? Let us live there with you. You think that's fair, don't you, Betty?
They're saying things that make no sense. I decide to give them a reality check.
As we've said multiple times, that house was ours. We agreed to demolish it, so there's nothing I can do for you.
Stunned, they listen as I continue.
Besides, why would we let you into our new home? Both John and I have been put through the ringer by you two. You tried to take our house using the land rights as leverage. If you take someone's house, you can't complain if yours is taken. I think this empty land is more than enough for the two of you.
After telling them that, John and I left a devastated Susan and Emma and returned to our new home. After losing their home, Susan and Emma found themselves saddled with property taxes, which we had been covering until now. But it only makes sense that they take on this responsibility. The land Susan inherited from David is in a prime location, so the property taxes are steep. To make matters worse, Susan only has her pension, and Emma is relying solely on her divorce settlement. I've heard they had no choice but to let go of the property because they couldn't keep up with the taxes. Now they're renting a place, and both have had to find jobs. Their lives are a far cry from the entitled days when they used to mooch of us. As for John and me, we did have to sell our home, but thanks to John's connections, we moved into a fairly spacious new place. It feels smaller compared to our previous home, but it's more comfortable now that Susan and Emma are out of the picture. The stress has lifted, and our relationship as a couple has greatly improved. In the end, it seems Susan and Emma were never really family to us. Looking ahead, John and I will probably have children. When that time comes, we plan to raise them to be considerate of others, using Susan and Emma as cautionary tales.